Here. Ron.
Here.
Michael.
Here.
John.
Here.
Joycelyn. Michelle. Here.
Good, thank you. And we have the agenda.
Joycelyn's on the call, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, she said hi just a second. Oh, yeah.
So it's on the screen. Would anybody care to move that we approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Moved and second that we approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. And the minutes for the previous select committee meeting. Do we have a motion to approve them?
Second.
Okay, it's been
Did somebody
moved.
move?
Who said?
Oh, I'll move.
I heard somebody online.
Okay, in various orders, we've had moved and seconded that we will approve our minutes for the last meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. Thank you. Number 5 here. After I had a chance to visit with Shanna, Shanna and Steve gave me the name of my counterpart at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library. This is regard to the recommendations or comments about Shanna's firm. And I received nothing but the highest of recommendation and accolades, which I found to be very, very, very helpful, if not quite persuasive. So you have a copy of the email I got from him, and if you don't have it, it'll soon be made available. But suffice to say, it was glowing across the board. Number 6, there was a review and updating of the library job description. Megan was our lawyer. She reviewed them. And the starting point was the previous job description. There's some adjustments made. And the major one is to incorporate 4 provisions from the Secretary of State's office that had as the functional oversight for libraries, and they'll be incorporated. And we can, if that's not done already in terms of a printout, we'll have it shortly. And the main reason why we are gathering here is to have the information from Shanna and one of her colleagues. So Shanna, if you please care to start.
She on?
Great. Well, thank you very much for inviting us to be with you today. I'm delighted to have, I think, a second opportunity to be with most of you. Again, my name is Shanna Plott, and I'm with Coleman Luke Haney Bowen. We're an executive search firm headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina. We also have a small office in New York, but we do searches pretty much across the country, and even on occasions, some global searches as well. We're a generalist firm, and we cover just about every industry sector you can imagine, but we do have a strong presence in a sector that we group together as education, nonprofit, and governmental. And as you know, many times those lines are blurred, and so those 3 subsectors overlap quite a bit. We're not a specialist in doing searches for libraries. We've done a couple of searches for Charlotte-Mecklenburg, most recently the CEO search, which Ron just referenced, and I'm delighted to hear that you were able to connect with Joe Helwig. He is a straight shooter, so I promise you if there was any discontent, he would have shared that with you as well. So, for purposes of today, I wanted you to meet Chris Shade, who is one of my colleagues here in the firm. So I'm going to let Chris introduce himself, and then I thought it might make sense for us to step through a proposed timeline that really steps through the various pieces of search process such as this. So Chris, why don't I turn it over to you to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Shannon. And hello, everyone. I'm Chris Shade. It's a pleasure to meet all of you and be involved with this unique opportunity. Big shoes to fill, obviously, for this important role with Mid-Continent Public Library. I came from a background in education, started out my career as a teacher, spent 10 years in the nonprofit sector in a number of different areas, but also sort of adjacent to higher education. And through my time, both growing up with 2 parents in the public sector, and also through my MPA program, I have a lot of exposure in that area as well. So my portfolio is specifically around governmental, nonprofit, and higher education searches. Which to Shanna's earlier point, we're in a number of different industries and gives us some unique perspectives. This is my key area, and I really enjoy doing this type of work for a mission-driven organization like yours, and we're excited to be a part of it.
So just to piggyback on that, thank you, Chris. Anytime we do a search like this, when it's at all humanly possible, we like to have two senior level client-facing consultants that co-lead an engagement. And if we are fortunate enough to be retained to partner with you all, Chris and I would partner on this search. So you get really the benefit of two experienced perspectives. Any candidates that we brought to you would have been carefully vetted by both Chris and me. You've got access to both of us pretty much all day, every day, and both be intimately involved in every step of the search process. In addition to that, we do have a team of wonderfully talented researchers. On occasion, we will bring those folks in to help us with just some original research, candidate identification, kind of the early stages of that, although Chris and I do a good bit of that ourselves. And then we would also have a dedicated business support person who would join us on this team. That individual would be involved in each and every status call with the search committee. I always say that the business support lead is the person who makes all the magic happen. They keep all of the trains running on time. They handle all of the scheduling around interviews, search committee meetings, providing documentation to you all across the life of the search and all of that. So you would have a dedicated team that you would get to know quite well as we move through this process, should we work together. I know when we met before, I gave you a very high-level overview of our search process, and I thought for today's purposes, perhaps we would tackle that in a slightly different manner. I provided a draft search timeline. Cody, would you mind projecting that on the screen if you have it at your fingertips?
I don't have it, but
Okay.
I believe it might be in board docs.
Okay.
It is in everyone's board docs, yes.
Fabulous. If you have it in your documents, maybe you could reference that. And I'm not going to read it to you, but I thought, for sake of just understanding the full process and what happens when, perhaps we would step through that, and I'll just give you a very high level perspective of how that works. So let's say that tonight you all meet and decide that you're going to engage Coleman Lucani Bowen in this search process. We would be at the ready, fully prepared to start things just as quickly as you're able to do so. We typically do like to start with a kickoff meeting with the search committee so we can talk about the role of the search committee, committee norms, proposed some advanced calendaring, and then we want to get your insight and perspective around the stakeholder listening tour and other pieces across the life of the search. So typically we would start with that meeting, and then as soon as possible, we'd like to start our whirlwind listening tour. And that typically takes a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks time to get the bulk of that completed. And you may remember I referenced this in our initial call, but this is where we like to meet with a nice broad cross section of stakeholders. Typically that might include board members, employees, community partners, county leaders, and other funding partners. It can be really a whole host of stakeholders, but we feel like we get a nice, well-rounded perspective and understanding by talking with a good, broad cross-section of individuals. Now, we will do these listening tour meetings in a variety of ways, and we'll look to you to really guide us. There will likely be some people that you say they absolutely need to have a one-on-one meeting. There will be others that we will group into smaller, kind of small group focus groups, if you will. And then quite often organizations of your size find it also helpful for us to send out a survey that we can craft through SurveyMonkey. With Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, we sent this survey to all employees across the system. We got very, very good response. But in essence, the 3 big topics that we ask everyone across this listening tour are 3 simple questions. What's really good about your library system today? What are the challenges? And then lastly, if you could craft that perfect next leader, what does that look like? And that could be everything from past experience, educational credentials, leadership style, temperament, whatever. We like to get a nice, well-rounded 360 perspective in terms of what that ideal profile looks like. So once we complete that listening tour, we'll give the search committee a feedback report that's a summary that gives you the highlights of what we heard along the way. You know, this listening tour really has two main purposes. First, it helps us really understand the culture, the organization, the pain points, the opportunities, the specifications that we're looking for in this next leader. That's very, very important, obviously. Otherwise, we're leaving it to chance and making some assumptions that may or may not be correct. The other thing that we think is incredibly helpful, and we've seen this time and time again, is that the more people you can engage on the front end of the search that feel like they had a voice in the process, the greater the likelihood at the close of the search that more people are going to be very supportive, so to speak, in the huddle with you to really support the arrival and onboarding of your new leader. So again, two big purposes that serves. It helps us do better work for you by learning more about your institution. Secondly, it gives a lot more people a voice in this process. At the close of that, we will craft, and again, you all are well on your way with this, but typically what we will do is a public-facing position description that is typically a subset of an HR job description. It's a marketing piece. We want to give a snapshot of your library system, a snapshot of the opportunity, and a snapshot of the key criteria that we're looking for in these leaders. Typically, the way that works is that Chris or I will have a conversation with someone. You know, they'll agree to maybe send us their resume. We can exchange information, send them this position description. Hopefully they see it and think, wow, this looks like an amazing opportunity. Absolutely, I'd like to invest the time to learn more and potentially move forward as a candidate. Obviously, we'll vet candidates against a whole bunch of other stuff not listed in that position description, but that's really the purpose of that document. Having said that, we definitely, once we craft that, we will flip that back to you. We'll want you to give it careful consideration because it's really important. We're an extension of you, and we want to make sure we're representing you the way you'd like us to out in the market. So once that is signed off on, we are off to the races in really sourcing, recruiting, and evaluating candidates. We talked a little bit about this last time, but the sourcing and recruiting candidates is the bucket of work that really, it starts once we have that position description, and it spans the entire life of the search. Our commitment to you is that we're going to continue to source and look for candidates truly until the close of the search, when you pick the person that you'd like to extend an offer to and are able to come to terms. So our commitment to you is we do not go out and source and bring you 10 candidates and tell you, here they are, pick one. We're going to continue to source. So my best guess is that in June, we would begin the sourcing phase of the search. And again, we'll post the opportunity in appropriate places, but we are going to go to market and proactively identify people out in the universe who we believe most closely align with the specifications of your search. And so again, as we talked about, we've just done the Charlotte-Mecklenburg search. We've got a nice big group of people that we think could be a really good jumping off spot in terms of folks to contact and ask for referrals. There may be some potential candidates in that group, but it's not a one size fits all proposition. And so we are going to target our sourcing very specifically to what you've told us for this specific library system, your needs, and what you're looking for in this leader. So as we're sourcing for candidates, and again, Chris and I will both be doing this, typically we have multiple touch points with candidates. Typically we'll start with one, possibly two telephone screens, that introductory call, get some general high-level information, then we'll exchange material, we'll collect a resume, we'll send them the position description. Typically then we'll have another phone call. We'll, ascertain their interest in kind of high-level qualifications. And then those candidates who we believe to be most promising will progress to a full interview with Chris and me. These interviews are typically done via Zoom or Teams. because it's cheaper for you and we can get to folks faster. But I promise you, it's equally as robust as if we're sitting across a conference table from a candidate. Typically, those are 90 minutes, sometimes longer in length. And we do a lot more than go through their resume. We understand a lot about their motive, their willingness to relocate, key accomplishments that they've had. We'll ask a lot of questions germane to your key priorities and the position description. So by the time we start talking with you about candidates, we know these folks pretty well. So it's not like we just hand you a stack of resumes and say, here you go, pick one. We've got a lot more, and that's really just what I would call supporting documentation. Typically, after about 6 weeks out in the market, maybe 8 weeks, we have what we believe to be a good, well-rounded slate of candidates for your consideration. So, and by the way, we're not going to go dark up until then. We'll be in close contact with you across that sourcing, sharing what we're seeing in the market, sharing questions that we're hearing out in the market, and that kind of thing. But on the timeline, I've noted August is when we would meet to present candidate backgrounds to you. There's not a magic number for that. We may show you 6 backgrounds, we may show you 12. My promise to you is anybody we show you, we believe is a tier 1 candidate, qualified, interested, and in our professional assessment would rank really in sort of the best of the best category. So we'll give you lots of supporting documentation in advance of that meeting. And then when we meet, we really bring that piece of paper to life. We'll give you the backstory, everything that you don't see on the resume. Hopefully you've already realized I'm a pretty straight shooter. We're dealing with human beings, not widgets. So I'm going to shoot straight. Chris will as well. We'll tell you why we think these folks are worthy of your consideration. We'll tell you all the good stuff. But by the same token, nobody's perfect. And we're also going to highlight, any nuanced circumstances, developmental opportunities, anything like that that you need to be aware of. So we'll present this initial group of candidates to you. We'll facilitate some discussion and decision-making within your group. Likely what will happen is you will want to narrow down that group to a subset that you are interested in moving forward to a first round interview with your search committee. We will help with that. We'll help with that decision-making process. We will facilitate the structure, the scheduling. We'll give you, again, additional supporting documentation in advance of those interviews. We're right by your side throughout that entire process. We have that noted as August as well for that first round of candidate interviews. Then at that point, again, we're going to continue to source. So once we determine who you like best or who you believe to be most qualified for this role, that becomes our bar. So anybody that we bring you from that day forth is someone we deem to be as good or better than that group that's currently under consideration by you and your committee. August through September is typically when we would see a second round of interviews, if that's needed. Some search committees will go through a first round, and there is clear consensus around typically 2 to 4 finalists that they want to move forward to a final on-site round of interviews. Other times, committees will need to go a little bit deeper with some of the candidates to get to that small group of finalists. So we do like to keep that sort of earmarked as a potential in case you do need to add in that second round of interviews before progressing to a group of finalists. By this time, we will have verified educational credentials. We can conduct an assessment if that's helpful, a personality assessment for those that are going to move forward to a final round interview. Most often as well, in advance of final round interviews, search committees like for us to go ahead and check references on finalist candidates, and we can do that as well. And then we have September noted as final round interviews. Typically, that's a full day, couple of days in length. I call it the full dog and pony show, so to speak. This is where you're going to bring candidates on site. You'll have them meet with a wide array of individuals. You'll hopefully have a couple of meals with them. They'll have an opportunity to see your community, meet with folks in a lot of different structures. We think it's good to do a panel interview. We think it's good to have a meet and greet. It's good to have a couple of meals, because what you'll find is some candidates do great in one setting, others less so, in another. But it's important to see sort of that well-rounded perspective in terms of how they show up. And then lastly, and we've got it again noted for probably late September. Hopefully you're at the point of being ready to make a decision and extend an offer. I think I told you all this before. My secret goal always is that you have a really, really difficult decision at the end of the search, and that maybe you're a little frustrated with us because you realize you could pick candidate A or candidate B and you're not going to go wrong. We want you to have really good options, and our job as your paid consultant is to help you get the person that you want to get. So we'll help you in terms of structuring and negotiating an offer with the candidate of your choosing, knowing that we're always representing you. We don't help candidates run up a package and get paid as much as they can. Our job is to help you get the person you want, and to do it in a fair way that makes good sense for you and that individual. And then we have slated, tentatively, that we would propose you would make an announcement in September or October regarding who your new leader is. So let me take a break there and let you ask any questions. I know I threw a lot at you quickly in terms of a timeline. Questions or comments you'd like to ask?
This is John Laney. Just one question, and that is the timeline. Is there a way, have you conducted searches that were on a shorter timeline? And is there a way that this one could be shortened by at least a month, do you think, and not lose richness of it?
That's a great question. And the short answer is yes, maybe. Here's what I would say. If we can control how quickly we can get candidates to you, we can certainly compress the listening tour and get out in the market sooner. Quite often, committees across all industries will say, can you talk to some of the key people in the listening tour, and then run parallel tracks and go ahead and get out in the market and start sourcing for candidates? We can certainly do that. We can certainly try to show you candidates more quickly. The tricky part is that back end of the search in terms of your team's availability to get together, interview, make decisions, get people on site, all of that with competing calendars, sometimes slows things down. But what I would tell you is we can be very, very sensitive to a sense of urgency and try to collapse some of these steps and move as quickly as is possible. And we'd ask that, the search committee, the board, and the overall institution help us in terms of being flexible and clear in your calendars to make that happen. Obviously, you're dealing with kind of prime summertime, sort of on the initial round of interviews. That can get tricky, not for us, but for clients. But assuming you all can be available, we'll do everything we can to make up some time and try to bring you some resolution sooner than later.
Okay, thank you. I think there is some urgency required, so I would appreciate anything that could be done that would speed this process up a little bit.
Yep, makes sense.
Shanna, this is Ron again. I have a question. With regard to the timeline on the material you sent, was the placement of the CEO at Charlotte Mecklenburg, was that pretty much along the same procedure and timeline as you have here?
It was the same process for sure. It took a little longer. I think it was closer to 6 months. And the reason was we were in peak COVID time, and we had some complicating circumstances, some hesitation around bringing people to Charlotte any sooner than otherwise we might have typically done. So those were the things that made it take a bit longer. But it still, I think it was a pretty efficient process, even in light of it being a weird time we were all living in at that point.
Sure. And if I recall correctly, I believe you mentioned that the person that we're talking about was not actively looking at the time, but you identified him?
Correct.
Does that come up often?
It does. I would tell you more times than not, the winner in searches we do is someone that we proactively reach out to. Listen, we think it's important to post the opportunity, to really for your sake as much as anybody's, to make sure we've cast a wide net. We will post it on our website with your permission. You may want to post it with Urban Libraries Council and some of the other places as well. We will acknowledge and review each and every applicant that comes through that. But I would tell you far more times than not, the very best candidates are those who today have no idea they may consider this opportunity a month, 2 months from now. I think I told you all with Marcellus, or MT as he goes by, the CEO of the Charlotte Library, I think I called him 3, maybe 4 times before he was even willing to have a conversation with me. I think the conversation went something like this: Marcellus, please don't take out a restraining order against me. Would you just agree to talk to me for 15 minutes? We're pretty tenacious, and there was a lot about his background that I thought made great sense. He also was recommended by several people, and he finally agreed to talk to me. He finally agreed to proceed to an interview, and it took recruiting him, and it took work on our part. It took work on behalf of the board, but it was a beautiful process, because what I saw was that with each and every touch point, his interest consistently continued to increase. And he's knocking it out of the park for what it's worth.
Hi, this is Michelle Wyckoff. I guess maybe I don't know if this is the right time. I was looking at the letter that you sent to Ron about your fees. What, can you give us an estimate? Like, what's the hourly fee for your calls, all that? I mean, like, what approximately are we looking at? Because this, to me, I mean, I get the fees that, the billing schedule with the, engagement letter, 30 days after the search, 60 days, and then the final fee, but it's all the other expenses. I kind of have a problem with, not having any kind of idea.
So we don't bill an hourly rate, so it would be hard for me to tell you what that hourly rate would be. Typically most of the searches we do, it's 33% of the first year's cash compensation. That's pretty much the industry standard within the retained search industry. We do offer nonprofits a 10% discount on that, reducing it to a 30% fee. I can tell you
I'm more talking about the customary and reasonable out-of-pocket expenses.
Oh, okay. So that is going to be verifying degrees, which is, I think it's $20 per degree, something like that, for candidates that move forward to interview with you. It's going to be, a lot of those are expenses that you will have whether you retain us or any firm. It's candidates going to interview with you. It's background checks that if you ask us to do that and facilitate it through an outside third party, it's all those kinds of expenses. Your expenses for us, if you retain us, are going to be very, very minimal. Now, if you'd like for us to come out there, which I'd like to do, we'd be happy to do that. I actually told Steve, when you were considering firms, that I'd be happy to come out and meet with you if that helped in your consideration. If Chris and I both came and did a site visit, perhaps we could agree that maybe we'd foot the bill for travel for one of us and you would cover the other. Typically, we would bill both. But again, our out-of-pocket expenses are going to be very, very nominal for this search, again, other than candidates that you bring to you, and those are expenses you'd have whether you had a firm or not. Does that help?
Oh, I mean, kind of, I guess. It's fine.
Shannon, this is Ron again. Just a question about the final stages of this process. I'm assuming most of it's done internet, Zoom calls, that sort of thing. Once the committee through your services, has narrowed down the candidates to 2 or 4. Is that the time when those persons would physically come to Kansas City here and see the library, meet the board, the staff, everybody? Or do we wait until we've kind of limited everything to the single candidate?
Typically, most organizations would bring a small group of finalists on site, typically not less than 2 and not more than 4. I mean, 3 is your standard number. Occasionally, we've seen groups that will just bring 2 back. And then Chris and I actually just finished a search for a university, and they had a great group of candidates. They actually decided to bring 5 to campus. So every now and then that happens, but we think about 3 makes great sense. And especially since you are likely going to want groups of stakeholders that meet with these people over and beyond the search committee to be able to weigh in and provide feedback, it's typically important for them to have some comparison points.
Good, thank you. Other questions?
We can meet later.
Joycelyn, John, questions?
No, I mean, what I'm hearing is what I hope to hear, which is it's very thorough and in my experience with other searches, the approach that she spelled out is exactly the kind of thing that we should be doing and is most likely to produce someone that we can agree on.
As far as me, I like her approach of identifying individuals who may not be considering, because if we just leave it to who's available, I think that we might not get a good fit. And this is why we need a search firm to identify those individuals and bring them forward so that we can consider them. So.
Yeah, clearly this is too massive a project to even contemplate doing in-house. Just a question, small question. You mentioned here that you interview all of the employees. I imagine at the university there are thousands of employees, but here we have pushing 800. I mean, do you literally check each and every employee for their input?
What we did with Charlotte Mecklenburg is we issued that survey. We crafted a survey through SurveyMonkey, and it was sent out district-wide. And so every employee had the opportunity to complete the survey. And as you know, SurveyMonkey is a wonderful tool because it'll help aggregate all of your responses and all of that. It still takes, a good bit of work on our team's part, but that was the mechanism by which they captured the broad employee feedback. Having said that, we did a couple of focus groups as well. We met with the executive leadership team. We met with all of the site directors. And I think we met with one other group, which escapes me right now, but I think we had 3 kind of designated smaller groups that were 6 or 8 people each. And this was within the employee base, but then the survey captured that opportunity for everyone.
And site directors, would that translate to like a library branch?
Branch directors, yes, exactly. Okay. Yep.
Good. Questions? I guess we are tapped out for questions. Unless there's something else that you care to share, this has been great and really appreciated.
Great. Well, it's our pleasure. Ron, I think you have my mobile number. In fact, I'll shoot it to you in an email right now, just so it's at the top of your inbox as you all are discussing and deliberating. If you have other questions, by all means, please do not hesitate to call me. I'd be happy to hop back on with you. But otherwise, we're standing by and would welcome the opportunity. We'd be honored to partner with you and look forward to an update.
Thank you.
All right.
Chris, Shanna, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Cody, just to verify, they have both hung up. They are both no longer with us.
Yes, Steve, they are both signed off now. We're still live.
Right.
Any impressions, comments?
Well, just what I said before, really, I mean, this is a fantastic firm. I'm glad we came upon them because I really think they have the horsepower to do what is needed
Yeah,
to be done.
yeah, and this was one of the two that Steve recommended or presented. It's hard not to be so impressed with her and her firm.
Well, I agree with, she's a pretty straight shooter. I mean, I don't think we're gonna get any equivocation from her. I think she'll be very honest with us in her approach and her recommendations. So that's the kind of relationship that you want in a firm like this.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I was just impressed with the fact that they happen to have just completed this search for Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, which is so similar to ours in many ways. And you know, it just means that they're very current right now on who's in the market and who's not, and so on. And I do believe what she said about finding someone who doesn't think they want to move right now is probably who we want to find. I wouldn't limit it to that, of course, but I think that's usually the best candidates. Not always, but usually the best candidates that you find.
I think it sounds good. I mean, there's something to be said about a firm that actually wants to work, wants the business, asks for the business. So instead of, shit.
Brian, I wanted to remind you that Megan Patterson did do a quick check on the firm, and I wasn't
Yes.
sure if you wanted to share that with the committee.
Didn't we all get that?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if everyone got that or.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So do you feel comfortable considering a vote on this firm to recommend to the board?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, then
I
I,
feel comfortable that we would get a thorough search, that good candidates would appear and that it would be done in a timely manner, and that's all we
Absolutely.
can ask.
Yeah,
okay, so is that your motion?
that sounds like.
Absolutely.
Okay, yes, that's a motion.
Okay, so we move that we engage this search firm, or that we recommend the search firm to be engaged by the library. And we take your recommendation to the full board in about, in an hour. So you second?
I'll second.
Second, okay, it's moved and seconded that we recommend to the full board that the firm of Coleman, Low Kenny, Bowman be engaged for the search, for the recruiting services for the new CEO. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, abstaining? Good. Okay, any other business?
Ron, I just want to say I appreciate your sleuthing that you did with, you sent around a memo about the person that you talked to. And that was very, very helpful because that was getting it, from a different perspective. And it was good.
I think Steve and Shannon recommended that. And
Yeah.
you're very, very incredibly supportive of Shannon's firm. So
Yeah.
A happy customer is always the best advertising.
Yeah, that's the truth.
They're in good shape. So any other business?
Is there any reason why we should try to set another date that we might get together again to take a next step? I mean, assuming the board approves of that.
Oh, no, yeah, I think that's wise, just to, first of all, get in touch with Shannon's firm to know how they're doing in a status report.
Yeah. Right, and that could, be online or it could be in person.
Sure.
John,
And there might be other business too.
it's always easiest is everyone sitting here with their calendars open.
Absolutely.
That's the
true.
next meeting.
So I'm gonna have to run to my car because I think I left my phone in it.
After I'm for coffee.
So, or, we can do that. It's sitting here looking for it. It's missing. I know, I just wanted it.
I hope it's only missing in
I
your
want to
car.
see if you.
Oh, it's only missing
I
in the
want to
car.
see if you use electronic media or this media.
I'm telling you. I'm just a hot mess right now with
You live in-
on the road all day.
you live in that car.
Laptop or wherever. My wife's had to find mine.
Yeah. My wife keeps all hers on hers and mine. Fortunately for me, many times, she keeps it on her iPad.
Yeah.
But I just do this. I just can't do it on the iPad. I don't know why. I just can't. Just old fashioned.
Yeah.
Well, lately I've been finding my appointments are put in weird spots occasionally. That is really annoying. It's probably me, not the app, but still.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't see your vehicle out there. You looked at when it's out there. Oh, I must have got her before you then.
And you were actually here just a little bit before.
Yeah.
Instead of all that gray dust on it.
I take my car. I started working fine on the roads. What was the deal? But all I know was.
I don't know. Did we adjourn?
No, it might have been another car somewhere.
Yeah.
It might have been a car, you know.
You were so set.
What date are we looking?
Or it might have been something caught up under my. I looked, I didn't see anything, but of course it could have been. It dropped off.
What are we looking?
That happened before.
That's,
Okay, I was glad to.
yeah, that was it. You're looking to set the meeting and then adjourn.
We were on the way to.
I have a question for you.
What dates are you guys looking at?
Let's check.
What dates are you looking
And
at?
there were some painters.
We're doing
Oh,
dates.
sorry.
And what do we,
Yeah, what kind of a timeframe do you fair to give them time to give us some meaningful information? 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
I would say shoot for 2 weeks. I don't know what coincidence there is with other meetings or whatever.
Did it be the 31st? And I think
No, it was your board doc.
31st?
Oh, I have that. No, I have
Okay.
it'd be 2 weeks.
and that's about going to be the only day of the,
my top.
Oh, that's good.
It's the Tuesday.
are you going in? It's the rest of the time
Are you going in there somewhere? I'll give you.
If we feel comfortable, we can just start
Okay.
a meeting for them.
I'm at a
And if we,
horse city,
if we have nothing from them, we can decide if we have something else to consider.
That
I think one thing that we need to think about between now and the next time we
Research
contact them is
So-
identifying the stakeholders. Interview.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yes.
So we're doing this project a long time ago.
Okay.
We're
I think that's a task all of us can get into.
31st, what time?
What time? Time in the afternoon do we want?
What time?
Anytime.
So the bathroom is like from.
It's a Tuesday.
Walking out of the meeting room, the bathroom.
I have nobody in school then, so I'm wide
Well,
open.
Yeah, they're at 3 stories.
With all this freedom, you don't know what to do with yourself.
I know. Yeah, yeah. These are
So
scared to go.
nobody says, who are you? What are you doing?
no, Cody, we're actually not adjourned. We're setting the next meeting.
Put us 11 on.
Sure.
11 o'clock.
11 a.m.
That's fine. That's the morning though, but I didn't hear that. What day?
So it's the 31st, May 31st at 11 a.m.
That's Tuesday.
Mhm.
All right. It's in my phone.
Will you send out I guess you'll send out.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, yeah.
Send a reminder, probably twice a day.
And just throw this out as an idea, Joyce, what you mentioned about the various groups. I mean, all of us are involved with different groups and different geographic areas and everything. So how about just as an idea to throw out, everybody on the committee comes up with some recommended groups or persons or positions or whatever. And then we just send it to Shannon and she can pick and choose as she wishes. But I would recommend that we do have, because of such a diverse area that we include, for example, considering, like Weston and Lone Jack with compared to Antioch, the whole demographic consideration too, so. And
Okay,
well,
so do we need to move to adjourn?
If everyone's
If
in
you-
agreement with that day, yeah,
Oh.
I think then
Works for me.
So, yeah, and, it's just one more way, and the suggestions that we have should go to you, through you, right?
or through Teresa or me, it doesn't make any difference. I don't have any preference.
Okay.
As long as, like for example, like we're talking about each of us now have different groups that I think would be interested, or actually maybe some not even interested, but still we'd like to have that input.
Okay,
So, okay.
Correct.
I think we have a motion on the floor to adjourn. Is that right?
yes. Second?
It's unanimous.